Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Who's on the phone?
Hi, Ari. I'm Sanjay Patel.
Hold on. Jim's going to turn up the phone so we can hear you. And I guess we'll start our round of introductions with you.
Could you introduce yourself again, please? Hello?
Yes,
hello,
this is Sanjay Patel, S-A-N-J-A-Y, Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hey, good morning.
Do we have anyone else online?
Yes, good morning. This is John Gracia. That's Gracia, John Gracia.
Welcome, John. I'm John Gagnon, co-chair with Ari of the Roundtable.
Good morning.
And I'm Alex Morganti, M-O-R-G-A-N-T-I.
Welcome. So we have 3 people on the phone today. Great. So continuing the round of introductions, I'm Ari Davidow with John. I'm co-chair of the Roundtable. I'm currently a project manager at work cloud projects, and I move towards from.
Hi, I'm Dovi Stinker. I'm a scholar practitioner and the senior project manager at SAI, the people reach.
Now, Mike Greco. I'm a project manager over at Nuance right here in Burlington. And I also work on a lot of cloud engineering projects, physical infrastructure, cloud, Azure. My first, happy to be here.
I'm Ed Anderson. I'm an IT project manager right now in transition, but I also do teach along with Jim over at Northeastern University.
Good morning, John Morrison. I'm a marketing project manager.
And Jim Hannon. I'm a consultant for a company called Full-Time, so the AVP of the Roundtables for PMI Mass Bay.
John Gagnon, co-chair again with Ari. I am a radiology IT operations manager here at Leahy Health Hospital and Medical Center.
Coming next month, Mike Fallon, who I think spoke here a couple of years ago, will be back with a new talk on work he's doing. I don't remember. This will be interesting, whatever it is. Two upcoming chapter events. Don't forget Professional Development Day South. That will be on September 22nd, and then an October chapter meeting, Building Sustainable Mega Projects. That will be on October 18th. We'll be meeting next month with Mike Fallon, but the chapter itself is taking a break. We're in the middle of our opening remarks. Upcoming events, Jim will start talking about 740. At 8:20, Jim, I'll be doing this. I'll let you know you've got about 5 minutes left, and hope to be out of here by 8:30. All of us for next. We have, in fact, 10 roundtables around the Boston area. Most of them are the region. We've had an Agile PMO that's on hold, but we do have healthcare and PMO, their own groups, and not mentioned here. And John, is that because it's not officially part of the chapter? There is
Credentials PM.
Great. So talk to John if you're interested in another roundtable focused on project management, but on business analysis. And you can always find out what's happening on the roundtable by going to the PMI Mass Bay website. Under professional development, you'll find roundtables, and then we're MetroNorth. You can also go to, not shown here, My Event Guru, and search for MetroNorth, and that will bring up the most recent event, and that's free. Register.
And just a reminder, video recording for this event will be self-recorded. Technical, I believe.
Stay technical. And build on what Jim's already said, an MBA, PMP, CSP, senior consultant working with Nuion, leading and coaching agile transformation on project management, financial services industry, without further review.
Great, thanks, Harry. So what I want to do today, folks, is I want to go through how do you actually reconcile Agile and project management at the same time. So it seems to be a constant theme within the project management world. As we know, Kimbach is actually going Agile, and the next edition is how to put some in. They're actually going to expand it greatly. So PMI is actually fully acknowledging the use of Agile. So I've done this for, again, like Ari had mentioned, 20 years. I spent a lot of time working with PMOs, specifically how do they become more Agile. I have one foot, I always say, firmly in the Agile world. I do a lot with Agile Boston. I have very close contacts with them. And again, I oversee all the roundtables for PMI and have a foot in the project management world also. And I do teach with Ed Northeastern. So what's the purpose of this session? We want to define the roles. What is actual classic project management? And then we want to go through and look at, let me just bring all these up here, the definition and theory of Agile. There's some case studies I'm going to walk through briefly. We don't have a lot of time, but at least I'll give you some practical experience. And then how do you actually integrate Agile with project management? I also teach at another college where I've actually created an Agile project management class online, one of the first in the area. So there is a definite need out there for it. There is a definite need to explain how project managers become more Agile. Jim Highsmith, who is one of the original 20 signatories in the Agile Manifesto. I've known Jim for a while. He actually wrote a book called Agile Project Management. So if you talk to a lot of the Agile people, they'll say, there's no need for project managers. They completely could get rid of them. And I've had long conversations with Agile Boston about, no, that's not the case, all right? And what we're going to do today is identify where the project manager fits in the Agile world. And again, it's going to be I call it APM, so they can peacefully coexist. You want to make sure that they can. Again, I did a large transformation at FIS SunGard I just left in November. We had done 4,000 developers at one point, and then I was on track to do 14,000 across the globe. And we had to really deal with the project management component of this. And then how do you actually go through and maintain in the new Agile world? So what's the roles in classic project management? Classic project management, as we know, is very command and control, okay? The project manager is the central spoke for everything. They're the ones who are actually looking at what is actually being done, who's doing it, why isn't that person have more tasks in their queue? Again, it's a very, and the team will actually look towards the project manager and say, I need more things to do. So is communication is structured, yet is it nimble? You always find out lessons learned. What you find out is that they really get to the point where lessons learned is one of the big areas where you can find out that you're not nimble, all right? You're not Agile. I had a conversation with someone from PMI a few years ago, and they said, if I do project management really well, I'm really doing Agile project management. Okay? And I disagree with that to some extent. So your plan is made, all right, in regular project management. And what you do is you make your plan, you actually adhere to it. But again, people have a very difficult time adjusting that plan. Do I baseline it? Do I re-baseline it? And again, when I took my CSM many, many years ago, I had a very difficult time trying to reconcile my PMBOK side of my brain versus this new Agile side. And the person who taught it to me said, "Are you a PMP?" I said, "Yeah." That's your first problem. All right. He goes, "You have to get away from that. Oh my God, I can't have change controls. I can't adapt to change." So project managers really need to understand that quickly. Speed to market is slow in most projects. Look at the projects that you're doing in a non-Agile atmosphere. It takes a while to get these projects done. Okay? I just did some side consulting with a state, and I said, "So how quickly do you get the projects in?" And they said, on average, it's 6 to 9 months that we're behind in every project. So I try to work through some Agile processes with this one department. It's a very difficult thing for people to break out of that mode. The standard life cycle is very siloed. What you find is you have someone who does business analysis skills, you have someone who does programming skills, you have someone who does, architecture or database or whatever documentation. And what happens is they don't talk to each other, right? Because what happens is they're taught, and the way the silo is built, is that they're expected to stay in that silo and do their work. So Agile breaks all that. So there's also an inherent conflict between the PM and the functional manager. So these are all things that you see in classic project management. So, but again, the shadow of PMBOK sort of sits on top of all this. It's interesting because as you teach project management, you're going to find out that the students take to it very quickly. Because again, it gives you organization, it gives you discipline. But then towards the middle to the ends of a class, I will say, okay, do you think you can actually change quickly? And most students will say, no, you really can't. So if you look at this is a little older, actually we do have a stakeholder at the end. We have our 10 knowledge areas and we have our 5 phases. There is a direct correlation to Agile project management and the regular PMBOK, okay? There is a direct correlation. You just have to make sure you understand that you can take that and actually translate it to Agile. So what's the big thing here? Customers want innovative, faster, cheaper, better quality products. I have a 16-year-old, okay, and I have a 12-year-old. Right? And what's the first thing that they learn is, especially my 12-year-old, she said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to go to Amazon. When am I going to get this? I'm going to get it tomorrow." Okay? Amazon can actually deliver things quicker, much cheaper, right, and with much better quality than we've ever seen in our lifetime. So we want to make sure that you look at things like the iPhone. Look at anything that comes out of some of these companies. A classic example of Agile is Spotify. All right, Spotify is a classic. They're really the model case of how you do Agile. So as you look at this, you want to get to the point where you start to build more quality in. Unfortunately, in classic project management, as you start to do this, what you find is your projects go long, and usually what ends up happening is someone in management says, "Whoa, hold on. We got to cut the project short." And what's the thing that usually gets cut short? Quality, right? So again, there is a fallacy out there that Agile actually does not help quality. Agile does help quality, and it's probably the most predominant thing that you'll have. So the user result, okay, misalignment of value definitions. Everything in Agile and everything in Agile project management is, Agile project management takes the standard, the discipline that you've learned as a project manager, and actually lets you use that in a very non-structured way, okay? And this is where the Agile project manager plays a big role. You have senior management who thinks this, you have the team who thinks this, you have internal or external people who think this, and they're all going in different ways. What I make a case for is Agile project management can actually realign those people. Because again, one of the biggest issues in Agile, and I've talked to Jeff Sutherland, I've talked to all the, probably 4 or 5 of the signatories, is that Agile teams have a tendency to only talk within themselves. And you look at things like scaled Agile, you look at SAFe, and they try to answer that question. The other thing is Agile project management will actually fill that gap. All right. Questions so far?
I have one question.
Yep.
Which is listening to your definition of Agile is through Agile and professional team without the normal structure.
Yep.
And your standard, what you refer to is the old, let's call it waterfall type of method. Am I correct on that assumption?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Because there's a whole broad spectrum in the middle of it.
Yeah, and we're going to sort of narrow down into that as we go. Okay. So what's the definition of Agile? How many people practice Agile there?
Agile fine.
Do you find it effective?
Yes.
You do? So let's just sort of take 2 or 3 minutes. What's your definition, John, right? What's your definition of Agile?
Flexibility.
Flexibility, okay. What yourself?
I would add flexibility, but also very specific. And I'll use the example, healthcare, for instance. You don't have many projects that you can do as an Agile project. Between iterative Agile stuff, but not Agile business.
Yeah, and again, I've done, it's probably up to about 18 to 20,000 developers now. Over the years I've done this. Not every project is eligible for Agile.
Exactly.
Okay? That's one of the big things. I've been into companies, I've done side consulting, and people say, oh, let's just go do Agile. And I'll say, well, what's your definition of Agile? And they'll give me flexibility, smaller chunks, I can move quicker. There's one definition that really overrides everything is value. And you're giving value to your clients on a consistent basis. So what it comes down to is, if you're not giving value through the disciplined Agile process, you have a problem. You're really not practicing good Agile. There's a good Agile out there, and there's a bad Agile. Okay? And again, I've known Jeff for a long time. He said, Jim, my goal right now is, we started this in 2000, is to get rid of the bad Agile. All right? That's really the most important thing. So what's the theory of Agile? Value, small batches, small integrated teams, small continuous improvements. That last one is probably one of the biggest things. Okay? Agile teams have a tendency, and this is where you as an Agile project manager can help. Agile teams have a tendency that they go through, they practice Agile, and they go, oh, that's great, and they pat themselves on the shoulder. And they never, ever, they go into their retrospective, and they never put any action on any of the items they have. Okay? They never continuously improve. If you continuously improve, guess what happens? You produce more value. All right? It's a very simple philosophy. All right? And if you continuously show things, if I build this Surface Pro and I show it to my consumer, I can get real-time feedback, right? I can actually adjust as I go. I can become more flexible. But again, keep in mind, take a guess. If you build a system, whether it be in healthcare, finance, whatever, take a guess of how much functionality in that system no one ever uses.
80%.
A little lower. 67 to 70% of what you build they never use. So if you look at your iPhone, 67. I don't use all the functionality. I don't even know it. So why are you building it? That's the question that people need to ask. If you don't build it, guess what? You drive more value, and you drive more value quicker. Right? That's the most important thing.
Isn't that true? And I'll use the example of release management.
What?
Isn't that true for release methodology as well?
Release.
Release. Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah, but again, what ends up happening is in classic project management, and I'm from a systems area, what ends up happening in releases is I've worked with teams who haven't released for 3 years. They just are in this state of flux. And what ends up happening is the client says, you told me you were going to release in December. You didn't release, and then the age-old question is, what year are you gonna release it? So,
I get what you say, but you do have some smaller release. You're getting to the agile side without being agile.
yeah, but be careful, because you have to make sure that releasing early and often, okay, is an aspect of Agile, all right? You know, and again, Agile, you can take into continuous improvement, you can take continuous integration, DevOps, you can take care of all of that. You know, the whole idea of, I've worked with one team where we talked about, you know, portability, poly-skilled, we called it. Can I actually get people poly-skilled? And the way I do that is, I can get them more integrated, all right? And what you find is, look at your own personal life. The more often you do something, guess what? The better you get at it. So that's the whole idea of small batches and quick release, okay? So, small integrated team. This is the area, if you talk to a lot of the people who founded Agile, this is the area where we struggle with, okay? Is you have Scrum of Scrums, Scaled Agile, actually, Scrum at Scale, actually has Scrum of Scrums, and then Scrum of Scrums, all right? A company in Sweden, I want to say, and the name escapes me right now, who creates the aircraft carrier, it might have been Saab. They actually do this, and they actually, at the end of the day, they have 4 meetings, 15 minutes each, and at the end of the day, any impediments get escalated directly to the CEO, okay? So they have addressed some of it, but what they find is that SAFe is somewhat bureaucratic, less is, okay. Scrum at Scale seems to be the most applicable to how companies run. So those are the 4 basic principles. But again, value is something that could be somewhat slippery. How do I determine what value is? Value, in my perspective, is if I'm giving something to the client and they can actually use it. I've actually had clients say to me, "Stop, we're okay." And we've had 3 more sprints to do, and they said, "We don't need it." That's a lot of value. That's a tremendous amount of value. So value comes back, you know, as you look at this. Higher quality, increased throughput, reduced waste. I've actually done Scrumban. Anyone heard of Scrumban before? I implemented this in a service organization. I actually am doing with one of the BU labs. I'm actually introducing Kanban. So the gentleman who runs the lab, he actually said, he has a little software development experience, and he said, "I'd like to do Kanban so I can see all the projects at the same time." You know, and we built it in Jira. So again, Agile has multiple things underneath it: Kanban, Scrum, Scrumban, XP. There's multiple different ways to become Agile. But again, the thing you're trying to push at the right product at the right time for the right price. All right, so we have higher quality, designed to fit, increased throughput, and reduced waste. So as you look at this, the project manager is skilled to identify business processes, correct? That's one of the good skills that you should have as a good project manager. So what I advocate for, and especially I'm speaking of PDD Day, is that you as a project manager need to take a really aggressive stand in this. Look at lean, all right? How do I make this process better? Why is this project always falling behind? Where are the roadblocks, all right? So that's basic practices for Agile. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I've implemented Agile, I can't count how many times. I've never implemented it the same way twice. Never, okay? And what does that mean? The biggest problem as you start to do this, and this is again, where a good project manager has worth their weight in gold. If you implement Agile, most people take it, slap it on top, and they say, "Great, you're Agile." They show you some metrics, they put you on Jira, and they say, "See you later." Okay? The best way to do it is look at the business process. Take the business process, map it to the Agile process, whether it be Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban, whatever, and then identify where are the areas where you can become more lean. Okay? So again, you have to make sure you look at how is the business doing their work, and then identify are there things that we should take out. So again, as you start to integrate something, what do you do to a system? You clean it up first, right? I don't want to bring all the junk with it. And again, I advocate the same thing as you do Agile. So there's certain Agile roles. Again, this group seems somewhat skilled at this. Team lead, team members, product owner. Now, here's the most important thing, is Agile project management really has to stress one thing. There is no such thing as a developer. There is no such thing as a business analyst. There's really three basic roles in Agile. Those are what? Product owner, Scrum Master. What's the third role? Team. That's it. Okay? A lot of people will say, oh, I'm a developer. I'll say, that's great. You have development skills. Okay? One of the biggest issues is, anyone heard of the word water scrum? All right? What ends up happening to a lot of teams is they'll take on the Agile mantle, but what they'll do is the business analyst will do their work, right, with the product owner. They'll start to go through their daily scrum, right, and start to do their execution. And then the QA person says, oh my God, I only have a week to test. Well, guess what? The development actually was delayed. Now all of a sudden they have 3 days to test. So what they're doing is they're taking the silos that they have in waterfall, and what they're doing is just putting them into Agile. All right, I had an ed tech company recently, and I sat there and I said, you guys are water scrum. And they said, wow, that's a pretty word. I said, you're not Agile. All you're doing is saying you're Agile. Okay? So again, you have to stress from a project management perspective, there's one role, a team. Okay? There's somebody who has quality assurance skills, there's somebody who has development skills, and there's someone who has an analyst skill. And guess what? If you get to the point where that team is fully self-organizing, they can mesh and they can do each other's job to some extent. Okay? So how do you integrate Agile with project management? Again, I call it APM, Adaptive Project Management. Okay? I would strongly suggest read Jim Highsmith's book. We use it for this class I created. There's certain phases, an envision phase, okay? And you can explore. Again, it maps directly to what Agile has. But again, the key point to this is that you do have a very good leg up as a project manager to use the skills to fill in the gaps that Agile actually brings.
I took your class.
What's your name?
Laura Catherine.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. I don't admit that I teach a both places. You didn't hear that, Ed. All right, okay.
Use your book.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Was the class was good?
It was good, yeah.
We do this class, and we do it all Agile. It's tough.
Yeah, our projects and everything.
Yeah, it is a tough class. We actually have them do a project, and we give them a lot of work. But you learned Agile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised you're still talking to me after we
It was a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah. Again, we've been told we are the toughest class in that university, in that program. Yeah. Traditional project management, Agile principles. So that apple with the orange is doable, folks. Is doable. Because again, let's face reality. Again, Joe DeAngelis is a good friend, and Joe and I had a long discussion one night. I had him talk at the Agile Roundtable I was running at one point. And he said, Jim, and then we kept going back and forth, and he said, okay, I get you, because I do see value for project managers, okay? Face reality, folks. As Agile comes into your organization, the first thing they're going to do is get rid of all the project managers. We don't need them. Okay? Why do I need a project manager? I have Scrum Masters now. Well, guess what? Agile/Scrum is built that the teams are by themselves. Okay? And usually what you find in most organizations is that the Scrum of Scrums, where Agile teams talk to each other, doesn't work well. That's usually a big issue. Okay, so compare and contrast. Planning, all right, distance between consumer and customer and developer. Again, as you start to look at these time between specifications and implementation, it's a case that makes itself. You really don't need to go through it, okay? And what you find is, if you do this correctly, what you're going to find is that Agile will far outweigh any deficiencies that it brings with it. But again, the big thing is, and in this class, Laura, right, one of the things we advocated for is you as a project manager need to sort of step out of that role, become more of a program manager. Okay? And you actually have to talk with the Agile teams. I advocate that Agile project managers become Scrum Masters, program managers, because again, that's really where the big issue lies. So if you're sitting here today or on the phone and you say, oh my God, this is really ringing true what he's saying, you need to go to your management and say, you know what, here's the role that we need to play, all right, as project managers, and here's why we need to play that. That's the most important thing.
Can you go back to that slide? It's important to make a point of waterfall. Waterfall method was in 1983 already changed by the German military, recognizing it doesn't work. So my point earlier is, in all the areas, and I've been in healthcare for the last 25 years, we cannot use Agile in healthcare, but we don't use waterfall. So there's a broad spectrum of different SDLC technologies that's very close to Agile, and I'll call it Agile type, because it's more iterative. That's got the same sort of values that you have in Agile, but it's not Agile.
Yeah, and that's okay. You know, if you're looking at something like Scrum Bond, I've actually worked with teams, I had regulatory teams that said, if I put Agile in, they would actually have gone backwards, all right, because they were very skilled, they knew specifically certain areas of the system that they were working on, and it also got to the point where it would just cause more bureaucracy, it would cause more overhead, okay? But again, an advantage for project managers is the Agile folks, no offense to anybody who's purely Agile, because I have a foot in that area, is that they are so fanatical about it that they just push it through. Yeah. They think Agile is going to solve everything, and it doesn't. All right. In some cases, you have to take Agile principles and you have to mix them with project management principles, and voila, Agile project management. And that's a crucial aspect of it. So as you look at this, you know, again, sorry, a little low here. You know, Agile, let's look at a few things. Focus on customer satisfaction and interaction. Focus on plans and artifacts. Again, one of the basic things is that Agile gets to the point where they want to get value out, and they want to get value out on a consistent basis. You know, if you look at your time, cost, and scope, and inside you have quality, that still holds true. What they do in Agile is they sort of flip the triangle upside down and they put value in there. But you have to make sure that as you start to do this, if you look at these conflict points, they map directly back to the basic manifesto. That, you know, we value people over documentation, but we still want documentation, but we want the right documentation at the right time. So other things here, traditional project management, upfront planning, rolling wave planning for Agile. Again, I always find it somewhat comical is that you do a project plan, and I've never been that good, and I've done this for a long time. Can you actually forecast 9, 12 months out? It's impossible. So as you start to produce these plans, the client looks at it and goes, yeah, okay. And deep down inside, they know that if you give them a date of December, they're going to say, well, it's going to be plus 6 months. So rolling wave planning is a good thing in project management. And again, as you see PMBOK, it's starting to move to that Agile world, all right, ever so slowly, but it is definitely moving. So again, you find out that you can adapt, you know, and you're more flexible. I always say, when you say the word flexible, what do you mean by that? Do you mean flexible in planning? Do you mean flexible when clients actually say, this isn't what I wanted? Or do you mean flexible when all of a sudden your star developer has decided to leave the company and they leave today? You know, where is that flexibility? So those are things that you actually have to start looking at as a project manager. So change the whole structure, all right? These are practical, very tried and true steps that I've used to actually change an Agile project management. Structure and build self-organizing Agile teams based on an organic model. Integrate them effectively into larger enterprises, okay? view Agile teams as organic, complex, adapting teams. I've done some work in complexity theory and project management. I've run a lot of, I'm sure as a lot of you here, run very complex, large projects. It's not the issue of the complexity, okay, that is in the actual task that people are doing. The people, if they're trained correctly, understand what they need to do. The issue is the things around the team. Okay? That's a big point. So it's the person who does the firewalls, the person who does the code integration, the person who actually releases the code. You know, again, most Agile organizations, if I go into an organization, I'll say, how Agile are you? I'll look at best practices. And I'll say, well, our development team is very Agile. And I'll say, okay, when's the last time you released? They'll go, 9 months ago. I'll go, okay, well, you know, you have to get to that point where you have to change the whole structure. That goes from the top down, okay, making sure you truly realize that. And you as a project manager, again, I find it ironic. I was in a SAFE class getting certified, and they said, okay, what area of the business are you in? And I was actually running a PMO. Okay? I was the only person in a group of 40 people in a class who came from the PMO. So what does that tell you? Who is the biggest impediment to getting Agile? The PMO. All right? They're usually the biggest impediment. But I find it, again, very ironic because you as a project manager, whether you're in the PMO or you're working as an independent project manager, know the business process best. And one of the main ingredients to actually get Agile truly implemented correctly is know the business process and then start to integrate it. Questions? Right.
Yeah, this is, hello?
Yep.
Yeah, question. You might have covered this and I missed it. Back a couple slides, you had project schedule risk. There's kind of a dual trickiness about that. There's the schedule risk, you know, for the sprint itself or heading for a release. What I have found some challenge with running Agile teams in an organization is that the organization has milestones, right? They want to launch a product at a certain time. It's coordinated with marketing collateral and press releases, or we need to get a new feature out because there's a commitment on contract renewals with key customers, any number of things driving, or there's an update needed technically to close some security risks in the infrastructure, and we got to close that by a certain time. Otherwise, you know, Google will start saying that your site is not trusted, or whatever the bad backlash is. So there are milestones driven into the development process, as there always has been. I haven't found a way that Agile provides better control over that risk than Waterfall. What I've found is that you find out earlier if there's a problem. But in terms of reducing risk, I mean, the only thing that reduces risk is coming up with good mitigation or a good fallback plan. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, I'm actually doing a presentation at PDD Day on risk management and Agile projects. So one of the big areas is that most Agile projects and people who run them think, oh, we don't have to do risk management anymore. That's the exact wrong thing. Is that when you do have milestones in projects, the thing that you have to do is you have to align the top of the organization in the middle, because you have, you know, salespeople going out there promising milestones, doing all of that. What you find is that organizations that really get Agile have a roadmap that's maybe 3 months out. That's it. Okay, and they have them in quarters. Now, in some cases, in regulatory projects, again, I advocate Agile is not the best thing to use. Okay, because again, you can put aspects of Agile into regulatory projects, but if you have to meet a tax date or you have to meet a certain date, you have to meet it. So whether you do Agile, Waterfall, it doesn't matter. Just get the work done.
Right.
So really, the answer is a combination of two things. Are you doing Agile in the right projects or the type of projects? And the second thing is, in the sprint planning, all right, and I'll talk about this at length in my workshop at PDD Day, is are you you actually doing risk mitigation? Are you actually planning for risk? Okay. And again, this is another opportunity as a project manager. You can look at multiple. I had a team in New Hampshire once. I had 5 Agile teams. And what they found was one project went down 5 different chutes. Now, the risk management was none of them knew what the other team was doing. They had to create an architecture group to coordinate those people. So you as a project manager can step above the fray and actually look at those and do risk management, not just from a Agile team perspective, but from a program perspective. Keep in mind.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just agreeing with you. Yes, sorry.
Okay. So is that helping?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I'm going to put a whole different spin on it, which I think is saying the same thing, and that is that if you look at the PMBOK, there are a lot of disciplines and areas of responsibility that go to project management. The fact that there's the Scrum Manifesto and other resources are silent on some of these things doesn't preclude them. What we need to do is draw from both to make sure the project gets done.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the heart of this discussion, is that
Okay.
I've done risk management in Agile, and people go, oh, God, we can still do risk management. That's great. So the other thing is break the silos of roles. Again, this is a key point. You want to get to the point where you actually, Nirvana is a self-organizing team where a developer could actually test, someone who tests actually develops. Is that going to happen all the time? No, it's not. But you actually have people who are, as we call it, poly-skilled, all right, where they can actually go back and forth between roles. So build a vision. This is the other point. The Agile project manager has a key role here, all right, is especially where you have Agile teams who actually go through and they take bits and pieces of projects. What you have to do is put your Agile program manager hat on and make sure that product ownership, product management is actually fully aligned to what's going to be established. Okay? I find it, and I've done this a lot, if you give a vision to the people in the team, because again, keep in perspective, most people in Agile teams are looking 2, 3, 4 weeks out, that's it. Okay? Where do I fit into this whole piece? All right? And again, the Agile project manager has a big leg up on this. You want to get to the point where you clear that vision. You make sure you see it. Okay? Simple techniques like putting out data metrics, okay, in the Agile teams. Actually having the Scrum Masters, you as a Agile project management, you coordinate and you run the Scrum of Scrums. Okay? Now again, keep in perspective, there's a thing called Meta Scrum and Scrum at Scale. All right? Meta Scrum is where all the product people get together. The Scrum of Scrums is actually where all the Scrum Masters get together. One is about what is going to get done. The other one is about how it's going to get done. Okay? That's the Scrum of Scrums. Now, I also advocate from a portfolio perspective, the Scrum of Scrums, where you have a smaller, tighter-knit group can actually work with the release engineering people to make sure that those are delivered correctly. So you build simple rules. Again, what I find is that project managers have a tendency, and again, maybe the German military, but the military drove project management, all right, across the globe. As you look at things, I went to American Express in the last company I was at. American Express got it, and they wanted the group that they were working with at FIS to go Agile. We had 23 pieces of paper we had to produce, 23 reports. They actually went through, they turned over to Agile, they had 3. That's it. 3. They had their test cases, I forget the other 2. It was very simple, okay? Make it simple, and if you understand it, again, you know the business process best. You work with multiple teams. If I'm a functional manager, I only know the business process from my function, right? That's an important piece. If I'm a project manager, I've actually gone across multiple functions, so I know where the impediments are, okay? Key implications, assess the environment to determine its characteristics. That's crucial, all right? A great technique for an Agile project manager is do this. Go out to your organization, ask 10 key stakeholders What are the major impediments that they have in getting projects done in the organization? Write them down, go to senior management, give it to senior management, have them actually become a scrum team of themselves, and the CEO is the actual scrum master. All right, I've done this before, it's very effective. Keep in perspective, I did this once, I got 25 separate items, and what we did was prioritize it. One was, it took us too long to get firewalls done. Well, the executive team looked at that and said, okay, let's change this, let's move this, let's change that. Saab does this when they build their fighter jets, okay, is they look at this, and they look at it from a macro standpoint. And when they do this, they were eradicating things left and right. But think about the waterfall, no pun intended, aspect of it. If I get rid of one major organizational impediment, that could impact multiple teams across the company. Issues to be addressed by APM. Communication between Agile projects, that's the hugest, okay? Manage the execution of the strategic projects usually gets lost in the fog of war. If you look at your strategy, you look at your roadmap, you look at your product manager roadmap, whatever you call it in your organization, what you find is every quarter you look at it in the old world, it never moves. All right, because again, people are too busy dealing with production issues. They're too busy trying to get rid of all the fog that's going around them. This is where you play a key role. You are the advocate, the execution person for the roadmap. All right, you are working across the teams. The other rule for Agile project management is you can never have a project manager and a scrum master on an Agile team. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen. Okay.
Can I just ask a question on that? The project Agile project managers, the roles mentioned earlier.
They sort of they become sort of the guardians of the Scrum process. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's two roles for an Agile project manager. Either you become a Scrum master, okay, and I've had some project managers do it, and they're very effective. I've had some do it, and it's a disaster. They revert back to their old project management ways. Usually what we do is we advocate in this class is move up, okay? And that communication between the teams is essential, all right? And you're really focusing on execution and strategy. Reporting of the project portfolio and program level. Matrix management interference. Risk management is nice to have, all right? In this case, it's a necessity, all right? That's the most important thing. How will the PM and the Agile people get along? Okay? Who runs the day-to-day of the project? Either the Scrum Master or the PM. Never both. All right? Scrum Master is the top dog for daily Scrum calls. I know one company who's in the state, office supply company, I won't name any names. Okay? A friend of mine actually was a Scrum Master there, and he said, Jim, he left us, it was a disaster. They had Agile, they had project managers and Scrum Masters. You didn't know who to report to. And then you still had your functional manager. So that's a big problem. Again, overall role definition confusion, redefine the culture. You as a project manager should take the aggressive step of going to your management and saying, you know what, this is where I think I should fit. Okay? This is where I find value, or this is where I'll show value. Again, resource management never fully gets addressed. That's another huge issue, all right, is that Agile teams, when you find out that they're having issues, I go back to the Agile piece and I say, okay, that's great. Now, let me ask you a question. How many hours did you put down for that person? They go, 40. And I said, they're not going to work 40 hours. They don't have that amount of time, right? And they go, oh, yeah, okay. So, again, resource management is a key piece, all right? So you have this right here. Tools such as version 1, Jira, build the Agile project plan driven by features, the fallacy, okay? I got a piece missing here, I apologize. Keep in mind productivity versus paperwork, all right? The real important piece is you can still have an Agile plan, all right? There is such a thing, all right? You can go through, Jira is not a great project management tool. It's never meant to be a project. What you can do is you can build a plan, and Microsoft Project actually has one out there now. They've actually acknowledged Agile. In the latest version, they actually have an Agile module. You can build plans based off of features, right? You cannot build plans based off of, on day 5 of the 2-week scrum, we're going to do this, all right? The key important piece is let the teams manage themselves, all right? And that's another whole topic of, that we can talk about for days. And make sure that you understand where you have to fit and how you can fit to give the most value.
Jira does have a section called components, we often level user story mapping, where you're talking about the features and then under the components you can build out your epics, user stories.
Yeah, the Jira has Jira. I did a Jira implementation recently, and I did it for a service organization. We did 10,000 tasks, and it just crushed Jira. We had to move it up. We had to filter a lot of things. We built Kanban boards. We did a lot with it. But if I look at let me see a Gantt chart, they have add-ons into Jira. You have to balance let me go get a Gantt chart, or let me go get a 300-page project plan. Those days are gone, folks. All right, I can't be any more blunt about that. They're gone. All right, if you're practicing in an Agile world. It's important to understand that as you start to bring this to the organization, all right, analysis and understand, define the roles, set up pilot projects, burn the bridge, you cannot go back, all right, execute and have fun. That 4th piece is the one that everybody misses. Oh my God, this is so bad. I can't believe this, all right? Why don't you just tell me what to do? So again, the other piece that you as a project manager can do is you have to shepherd and evangelize the Agile move. Second thing is you have to watch it, monitor it, and make sure it works well, right? And the third thing is make sure you're actually seeing results from it. This is where you as a project manager can add tremendous value. Am I getting the right results at? Do the teams have the right metrics, all right? Are they using Jira correctly, all right? Those are things that you actually add value to. So the parts should now all work together. Look at yourself critically. Are you actually functioning in a good Agile mode? Nobody is, all right, with the exception of maybe Spotify. Microsoft does it, but they always have problems with this, all right? Okay, questions? That's my own personal website. I do consulting. I do some stuff I've done some stuff with the Defense Department, the Navy. Again, obviously, as you know, I do a lot of work with educational institutions. I'm going to be kicking off a new product, specifically for really 2 products. One for small businesses, where project management seems to be greatly lacking, and one also for educational institutions, where it's really...
Hey, Jim, this is Josh Brickman on the phone here from Oracle. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Agile's now been around for, I think, at least 17 years. Has there been any work or thought about how to expand Agile besides, it's essentially designed for really software development. Oracle does hardware development, so we still use waterfall development for waterfall project schedules for building out Spark servers, for example. Construction still has to use waterfall because, you got to let the cement dry. There's still has there been any thought about ways to take the Agile methodology and deploy it in non-software projects that you know of?
Yep, there's been Scrum Inc., which I've done a lot of work with. That's Jeff Sutherland's firm. There's a gentleman there called Joe Justice. He built a car in 100 days, a very functioning car. I've never met Joe, but I know all the people who work with him. He actually has built a... He spends a lot of time in Agile and hardware. I go to scruminc.com. Joe is extremely enthusiastic, but they've done a lot of work in that area. Again, I've done work. I have another product called scrumthink.info. or I actually do Agile for educational, not project management, but how do you actually, and we do it with the BU course. That is the personification of Scrum thing. So instead of creating a syllabus, instead of creating, just telling the students what to do, I actually run the course completely Agile, everything. And not just teach Agile, but I actually run the course that way. There's work going on right now. I'm doing some work with the neuroscience lab to do Agile. There's other work. I've looked at the legal area. There's a huge area in marketing. Maria, her last name escapes me, but if you go on LinkedIn, you'll find it. I've done work with salespeople. Again, Joe Justice has done work with hardware people. Myself and this other gentleman in Arizona, again, Agile in education. So there's pieces out there. You don't have to do Scrum in XYZ industry, all right? You can do Lean, you can do Scrumban, you can do whatever. So does that help?
Yeah, that's great. I'll look into those ideas. That's a great idea. Thank you.
If you're in a specific industry, I've actually done Agile with pharma people. I actually talked to the Life Science Group twice to try to map out their process. Not easy. Not easy at all. Do you have a question, John?
No, I was going to add, in terms of the marketing aspect of it, as a marketeer, Agile has been making great inroads. That's why I was mentioning about flexibility. But I also had a comment. You mentioned earlier about an incident where you had a project where you ended in the project, and you still had 2 sprints to do, and they said, oh, what's that? Solve that problem. What came to mind is the speed of value.
The what?
The speed of value that you deliver to the customer.
Yep.
Faster than what they.
Yeah, and what you're going to find is we did Agile with US Bank, and what we found was we actually created a calculator for margin calls when I was at FIS, and we delivered it in 8 different pieces. 8 different pieces, and they struggled with it. They really did. They were not used to getting something that wasn't fully 100% tested. But as I taught them about Agile, what they found out was, okay, it may be a little bit buggy, but would I rather find a bug now, or would I rather find a bug 6 months from now? All right? Questions, anybody? Good questions. So if you do have an industry that is looking for Agile, the gentleman from Oracle, feel free. I will send these slides, Sean. Yeah.
We have the slides. We'll post them on our website.
And you have my website. You can contact me through there. Okay. All right?
Great.
All right. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.